So today we're going to focus on the idea of multiplying these monomials. So again, a monomial is just a single piece, like 3x, or it could even be more complicated, like 5x squared y to the fourth. But regardless, a monomial could be written as a multiplication problem. Okay, so a monomial, it's a single piece, but it could be a big multiplication problem. So like 3x, we can take 3x and we can rewrite that as a multiplication problem of just 3 times x. And the same thing is true with 5x squared y to the fourth. Even though it's a bigger problem, it can still just be rewritten as a multiplication problem. Just 5 times x times x times y times y times y times y. Sorry, that's really sloppy there, but we got a 5, and then we've got times x, that makes up the x squared, times y times y times y times y, that makes up y to the fourth. So these monomials are really just multiplication problems. So one of the first things that you're going to do on your assignment today is you are going to take multiplication problems and write them as monomials. So for example, here we've got a multiplication problem, x times x times x times x times x times x times y times y times y. We're going to rewrite that as a multiplication, x to some exponent times y to some exponent. So remember, just the number of times it's being multiplied, that's the number of exponents, or the exponent you'll have. So x times x times x times x times x times x. If you count right there, how many x's do you see? Okay, 6. And so in our kind of simplified monomial, we would just write x to the 6th. Okay, how many y's do you see in that problem? Okay, there's 3. And so we'll put y to the 3rd. And so our answer is just going to be x to the 6th, y to the 3rd. Now we can have numbers mixed in as well. And so on the next problem, we have an example of that. When you have numbers mixed in, numbers we can go ahead and multiply together. So like negative 4x times y times negative 5 times x times y. We'll start by just multiplying the numbers together. So when we look at the numbers, we have negative 4 times negative 5. So what do you get when you take negative 4 times negative 5? You get 20. Okay, so we're going to have a 20 as part of this monomial. Okay, now we want to go through and want to see how many x's we have. So how many x's are there in this problem? Okay, there's 1 here, and then there's 2 more here. So that would be 3 x's. So we'll write x to the 3rd. And then how many y's do you see altogether? Okay, you see 3 y's. There's 2 right here, and then there's 1 at the very end. And so our simplified version of that monomial would just be 20 x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. So one of the things you're going to do on your lesson today is you're going to take multiplication problems like this, and you're going to rewrite them as a condensed monomial. But we also want to take monomials and we want to multiply them together. And if we just think about what we just did, that's how the rest of these problems are going to work. And so on our next example here, we're going to take 8z to the 6th times 4z to the 7th. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to kind of put together what we've been just talking about. Okay, so if we were going to rewrite 8z to the 6th as like an expanded multiplication problem, we would have an 8, and then we would have 6 z's written down. Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to write them all down. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there would be 8z to the 6th. Kind of sloppy there. Okay, now we want to write down 4z to the 7th. Now that's still being multiplied, so it'd still be times 4, and now we're going to write down 7 z's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just like we did the last problem, we're going to start here by multiplying the numbers together. So before we do anything else, we're going to multiply 8 times 4. So what's 8 times 4? 32. Okay, now how many z's do we have in that problem? Well, there's 6 from this first group, and there's 7 in the second group. And so if we counted them all up, that'd be a total of 13. And so our answer is going to be 32, and then z to the 13th. And so that would be our answer there. So you can do this. You can take these problems and you can break them all back down, or you can just kind of look at it and think, okay, well, what am I doing? Well, I'm going to multiply the 8 and the 4 together. And then I really just end up adding these exponents, adding the 6 and the 7 to get 13. And it doesn't really matter how many things we have, we're going to do it the exact same way. Okay, so try this next one. What would you get when you take 8x to the 10th times 6x to the 5th? Okay, you would start by multiplying the 8 and the 6 together. And so 8 times 6 is 48. Okay, then you're going to count up how many x's there are. So there are 10 x's in this first group. There's 5 x's in the second group. So that means there's a total of 15x's. And so we would have 48x to the 15th as our answer. All right, so that is what you're doing today. You were just going to be kind of working on this some more. And again, just remember, no matter what the problem looks like, that's really what it always comes down to. So even if there's 3 terms, we're still going to do the same thing. If we were to rewrite this problem, 4z to the 6th times 5z to the 5th times 6z to the 8th, we would write down 4, and then we would write down 6z's. And then we would write down 5, and then we would write down 5z's. And then we would write down a 6, and then we would write down 8z's. Now you get the idea. So we would start by multiplying the 4 times the 5 times the 6. So what do you get when you take 4 times 5 times 6? Okay, we get 120. And then how many z's are there going to be when we count them all up? We got 6 in the first group, 5 in the second group, 8 in the third group. So we take 6 plus 5 plus 8, and we get 19. And so our answer would be 120 z with an exponent of 19. Now, when you go to type in that exponent of 19 on My Open Math, you're going to use the little symbol that's above your 6 that looks like this. And so you would type in the z, and then you do Shift 6 to get that little symbol like that. And then you can just type in 19, and it will make it z to the 19th on your My Open Math. Okay, the last problem here, we've got more variables. We've got x's and y's, but we're still doing it the same way. If we were multiplying these together, you would start by multiplying the numbers. So you multiply 4 times 10, and that gives you 40. And so now we go back and we look at the x's. So how many x's are there in this problem? Well, there's 5 in the first group. There's 3 in the second group. So that means there's a total of 8 x's. If we were to write these down, that's how many x's we would write down. How many y's would we write down altogether? Well, we would write down 2 from the first group, 3 from the second group, so that's a total of 5. And so it would be y to the 5th. And so our answer is just 40x to the 8th, y to the 5th. So again, that's what you're going to be working on today. Hopefully that makes sense. You're going to need some practice with that today. If you have any questions, make sure you either email me or just send me a message through Canvas Messenger. All right, well, good luck. That's all we have for you today. And so that's the end.